of the middle school in-house debating final. Today will be of the in-house debating competition rather. Today we'll be debating the motion this House believes that it is acceptable to threaten students who drop out of education before the age of 18 with imprisonment. I'd now like to turn to the first speaker for the proposition, who are Hale, and I'd like to welcome James.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the motion today is, this House believes that it is acceptable to threaten students who drop out of education before 18 with imprisonment. And what we mean by that is we would, as a final ultimate measure, send 16 to 18-year-olds who didn't take part in designated activities such as school, college, apprenticeships or work placements to jail for a short amount of time. So, as I've said, this measure would only be employed in extreme circumstances. Prior to this, we would have attendance orders similar to ASBOs to let the pupils know that they need to be attending school, as well as fines. And if they don't comply with either of these, then they should be sent to prison, as it were. But what we want to make clear is that these aren't prisons in a traditional sense. These would be newly established institutions to deal specifically with this sort of truancy, and they will cater only for young people. They will encompass rehabilitation, mentoring and counselling to try and provide a positive platform for these people to move on with their lives. Now, we've seen with the educational maintenance assistance and various other schemes that incentivisation isn't enough to get young people of that age group, this is 16 to 18, into schools. So we feel it's reached a stage where we have to take drastic measures, and David and I are going to outline to you today why we feel these measures need to be taken. By 2020, the number of unskilled jobs will be a fifth of what it is today, at 600,000. Now, with the influx of immigrants that we have, and with the growing economies of China and India, there are going to be more and more people who are willing to do these jobs, and less jobs for people that haven't had a decent education, and that is why we feel we have to provide it to them. Now, my main points are, well, that was one of them, about the global economy. The growth of China and India, as everyone is quite certain about, is exploding, and in these countries there are many workers who are willing to do the jobs that people in Britain who don't have a decent education would do, but for lower wages. So what is going to happen is these people therefore are going to lose their jobs. Moreover, it is in our own country's interest that we have a system where people know if they don't go to school, they will have to face serious consequences, because the Johnson report, commissioned by the Chancellor, states that £50 billion in long-term savings from people getting a better education and therefore being able to enter themselves into higher status careers will result. So it is in our own country's interest that we make sure that these young people fulfil their potential and get as much education as possible. Yes, Raphael?
Not all people who do not go to school or drop out of school are 16 do not have aspirations as such. They do not necessarily want to become skilled workers or accountants. So why? Yeah,
but the provision that we've laid out, as I stated to you, is not just a system where you have schools and colleges, but also apprenticeships and work placements. So there's a wide range of things that people can get involved in. It is not just school in the traditional sense. And what I'd like to move on to now is the social underclass that may well result if we don't deal with these young people and their lack of skill. Now, what is going to happen, as David will go on to expand in his case about the influx of immigrants and how that will affect, is there's going to be a generation of people, a series of generations in fact if we don't do anything, that will find trouble getting jobs, will end up unemployed, will lead into a life of crime, and crime and unemployment have been proven to be linked to each other, and we feel that it's in all of our interests that we deal with that. We also think one of the positive aspects of the sort of incarceration that we've presented to you today is that it will remove these people from a bad environment, which various reports have shown has a bad influence on young people. And in Western Australia, in fact, they employed a system where, along with other enforcements, there was a prison sentence, and the attendance of young people aged 16 to 18 rose from 80% to 98%. So, for the reasons that I presented you today, and David will expand on the importance of doing it in light of the influx of immigrants and responsibility and how we need to engender responsibility in people, I urge you to propose a motion.
I'd now like to move on to the first speaker for the opposition from CD, who is Raphael Gray. 518.
I'd like to thank James for making such a ridiculous and flawed proposition sound so respectable. We at the opposition have identified 3 flaws in James's argument, namely that those who drop out of school or play truant from school from the age of 16 do not necessarily work best in education environments, the fact that criminalising our youth is going to achieve nothing, and also I'm going to be addressing the logistical issues of this proposition. Whilst Ben here is going to be offering a counter-proposal, one that offers the carrot and not the threat of a stick over our youth. I'd like to start though by addressing some of the points made by James over his speech. He said that we need more skilled workers. I think that he said that only 1/5 of our economy was going to be made up of unskilled workers over the next decade or so. Yet, they want to educate truants to become accountants and stockbrokers and members of parliament. Well, that just doesn't work. People who play truant are not necessarily the ones who have high aspirations, who want to earn millions. They may just want to become declined. They may just want to become, follow their fathers to become, I don't know, a brickie or a mechanic or a taxi driver. Also, if they don't go to, James suggested that if they don't go to school, they will be punished. Yet the leaving age remains at 16. So if the threat of prison looms over the youth, wouldn't they just leave school to avoid being arrested? It doesn't make any sense. The proposition is just defeating their own aims here. And lastly, he said an underclass would be created. Well, let me tell James, declined, that society has been functioning stably and well for the past hundreds of years, with no education, with a school leaving age at 12, with a school leaving age at 14, and now that the school leaving age is at 16, we're finally starting to see our society turn into a collection of educated and reasonable citizens. Accepted.
But surely, as I stated to you, the nature of the global economy and how it is changing means that we cannot carry on in the way that we have been.
So are you suggesting that all of our economy are, all of our workforce are going to have to become skilled workers? Because I don't see that happening. As you put it, there will always be an underclass in our society who do not succeed so well. Now, most dropouts at 16 do not work well in classroom environments. They may not make the link between education and quality of life, or they may simply dislike learning. A change in the law would be useless at combating these views. After all, you cannot educate those who do not want to be educated. No, thank you. Even some of the most intelligent people in our society do not work well in school. Take a look at Philip Green and Albert Einstein, once a billionaire businessman, once the most successful scientist of the 20th century. No, thank you. Both dropped out of school at 16. At the other end of the spectrum, why does an aspirational brickie need an A-level? We say that a good education system is incentive enough for people to stay at school. But if they don't want to learn, so be it. Let them do what they want with their lives. We're encouraging people to take responsibility. Ben's going to elaborate on that point. Accepted.
But it's not just schools and colleges that we're proposing, but work placements and apprenticeships. And as I said in my proposal, there's a variety of things that people can involve themselves in.
Well, why not then arrest the unemployed in our society? We say, let people take things at their own pace. We shouldn't be chucking them into jail just because they don't want to work. We should be telling them that working does have benefits, but, you know, if you don't want to go to college, fine. Now, let's take a closer look at what the propositions actually